Yo guys, what is up? And here we are with another video. And today we are on chapter 19. And I'm getting really excited. And today's book suggestion is, let's take a look. Ooh, yeah. In the Shadow of Liberty. And this is a book about 5 slaves and 4 presidents. And that's all I'm going to say. But before I begin this video, I would like to say that all words said in this book that are German, I have no idea what I am saying. So please do not take offense to any words heard. Okay, yeah. So we are on chapter 19 of The Only Thing to Fear by Caroline Tung Richmond. And without further ado, let's get right into it. Chapter 19. They drove north, passing soybean farms, sacking houses, and a handful of Nazi factories that spluttered white smoke into the sky. Despite the bumps in the road, Zara managed to drift asleep, but she blinked awake at once when the truck lurched to a stop. Eyelids heavy, she yawned in the darkness. According to the vehicle's clock, it was 3 in the morning. Her body, sore and tender from the battle at the fort, yearned for more rest, but Aline told everyone to move. As Zara stretched out a kink in her neck, she realized Bastien had rested his hand over hers during the ride north. Very quietly, she glanced at him. Her gaze skirted over his profile, no longer seeing the resemblance between him and his father. In the last week, she had seen courage in Bastien's eyes, heard a gentleness in his voice, traits that the colonel could never possess. And when Bastien smiled, there was no cruelty there. It was a smile that reached deep into his eyes, a smile that made Zara's breath tighten whenever she saw it. Bastien shifted in his sleep, and his curls fell over his forehead. Zara was tempted to brush them aside, but when she heard her uncle awaken at the other end of the truck, flustered, she untangled her hand from Bastien's and flushed at her ridiculous thoughts. They were heading to war soon, on a mission to kill the Führer. She had to stop thinking about Bastien in this way. This hope in her heart, this flood in her stomach, she had to squash it before it bloomed even bigger. Bastien stirred next to her, his eyes opened slowly, and when he saw Zara sitting next to him, those dimples of his appeared. But then he noticed the rough canvas of the truck covering, and the dimples vanished. The memories of last night must have crashed through his mind. "Where are we?" he said, stretching out his long legs. Aline opened the back of the truck, and the blinking light of a lamppost filtered into Zara's eyes. Beyond the door, she saw a row of tenement buildings crumbling around them, and broken sidewalks lining the road. Graffiti covered every surface in view. "We're on the outskirts of New Berlin," Aline said. A gold necklace peeped out of her bloodied shirt, and Zara noticed its shiny pendant. A Star of David. She must be one of the last Jews in the territory, Zara thought, thinking immediately of Molly and her family. We'll meet with one of our contacts here." Zara followed Bastien out of the truck and noticed Aline watching every one of his moves, still wary of him. After Bastien had fallen asleep for a couple of hours, Zara had asked Garrison about more details. Had asked for more details about assassinating the Führer, but he'd hesitated to say anything more, not with Bastien in earshot. Zara had told him, and Aline had told him and Aline repeatedly that they could trust Bastien, that he had risked his life for her. But Garrison had pointed out that Bastien remained an unknown factor, and Uncle Red had agreed with him. "He's unproven," Uncle Red said while the truck veered onto a side road to avoid any Nazi checkpoints. Before she could protest, he held up his hand. "I am not saying that I don't trust him, but I haven't seen enough evidence that I can. He will prove it to you. I know he will." "You should have told me about him sooner, Zara." She had nearly rolled her eyes. "Like that would have gone over well. You lied to me, and now Bastien could have been a liability to us. He's giving up his whole life to join the alliance." She had wanted to shout, but she hadn't wanted to wake Bastien or Garrison, who had started dozing. "Bastien checked on you after I hit you with that bolt of lightning. He helped." Uncle Red had been taken aback. "You didn't tell me that." "Because I knew you wouldn't would flip out about it. She had tried to tamp down the frustration in her voice. Both of us would still be in those cells at Fort Goring if it hadn't been for Bastian. I'm not saying he isn't resourceful. You only see the Eckhart in him, but he's nothing like his father, just like I'm nothing like mine. Uncle Red had gone quiet for a long moment, his gaze scanning over Bastian's sleeping form. Then he surprised Zara with what he said next. No, I suppose he isn't. He gave up everything to come with us. His mother, his home. He didn't realize he was doing it when he came to the jail to free me, but he's accepted it. He knows he can't go back. She'd swallowed hard as she thought of her own home, the house and the farm, and the land her family had worked on for generations. Despite her misery, she had said, "At least we have each other." And that's all that matters, Uncle Red had said. Mazera had heard the pain in his voice. They couldn't go back to Greenfield either, not when they were traitors. Zara's head felt heavy, bowed with exhaustion and a heart-twisting sadness. She'd wanted to curl up in her bed, nestled in the blanket her mother had sewn for her, but she might never sleep in that bed again. "What'll happen to the farm?" she had whispered. "I don't know," Uncle Red had said, his voice tinged with sorrow. "I just don't know. It could be months until they saw their land again, years even. But Zara decided then and there that she would do anything to reclaim their home one day, if she survived the mission at the White House. Uncle Red and Bastian helped Garrison out of the truck. Thankfully, Garrison's shoulder had stopped bleeding, although he grimaced whenever he moved it. Aline led them towards a two-story factory and into the shadows of a sign that read, Vega Tobacco and Cigars, established 1893. The factory was silent at this time of night. The workers wouldn't start their shifts for hours. "My friend Dominic owns the building," Garrison explained. "His family's been part of the alliance since the very start. We've been planning this rendezvous with him after the raid at Fort Goring." "Will we be safe here?" Bastian said. He chewed his lip as he glanced at the abandoned apartment and the rubble littering the street remnants of long ago. Okay, let me start over. He chewed his lip as he glanced at the abandoned apartments and rubble littering the street, remnants of long ago war bombings. Zara doubted that he had ever stepped foot in a place like this. It wasn't his fault, of course, but a Nazi upbringing would have shielded him from this destruction, from this poverty. "We'll be fine here," Aline said curtly. "Let's get going. I don't like being out in the street." Once they reached the factory entrance, the door opened to reveal a heavy-set Latino man with a salt and pepper beard that engulfed his face in a furry mask. He hurried toward Garrison with his arms outstretched, burying him in a tight hug. "I was starting to think the worst," said the man that must have been Dominic. "Murdoch contacted us after the attack and said you should have gotten here over an hour ago. We took the long way, just in case anyone was following us." Garrison gave Bastian a look, turning back to Dominic. He made some quick introductions to the others. Dominic's one of the first who told us about the gala. He's been helping organizing this last attack. Dominic ushered them into the building. "I'm sure all of you are tired and hungry. Let's head inside and I'll have someone dispose of that truck. I told my workers not to come in today, so we'll have the building for our preparations." "Any news from Fort Goring?" A smile spread across Dominic's face. "A victory! We ransacked half of the fort's armory before the Nazis regrouped and Murdoch ordered everyone to fall back. Communication has been pretty spotty since then. Many of the rebels are still on the run, but a good number followed Murdoch's orders and have arrived in New Berlin. We took in some of the wounded, but everyone else is lying low for now in some safe houses around the city." "What about the C4?" said Garrison. "Saved and ready for the attack." "Come and see." They entered the main floor of the factory, and Zara immediately felt tiny. The ceiling soared 40 feet above her, making each footstep and each word an echo. Long tables spread neatly across the factory floor, and Zara assumed this is where the workers rolled cigars by hand. Dominic beckoned them down a flight of rickety stairs to the basement below, where stacks upon stacks of dried tobacco greeted them. Beyond the last pile of the sweet-scented leaves, Zara saw dozens of men and women, rebels by the looks of it, lying on cots or blankets spread over the floor. Some had bullet wounds, while others had gashes covering their body. A harried A harried-looking nurse tried to attend to all of them. I can help treat them. I'm a medic, said Bastian. As he looked over the wounded, something shifted in him, like when he had treated Uncle Red's burns. Dominic's tired eyes lit up. We'd be grateful. My cousin Sophia has been tending to the injured and hasn't slept for hours. You should get some food first. You should get some food in you first, though. I can get started right away, said Bastian. Eating can wait. You really should eat something, Zara protested. I need to work, he said so quietly that she could only hear, to get my mind off of things. Zara didn't think starving himself was a very smart idea, but Dominic had brought Bastian over to meet Sophia and directed the rest of them towards the kitchen around the corner. Each of them took a bowl of hot beef stew and sat around the small fold-out table. Before anyone could even take a bite, Uncle Red started asking about the assassination attempt. What I don't understand is why we have to kill Dieter. He'll be dead in a few months, Uncle Red asked, not touching his food. What's the point of killing him now? The point is the statement we'll make, Aline said between chews. Can you imagine the support we'll receive if the Alliance takes down the Nazi Empire? The leader of the Nazi Empire? It's not only that, Garrison took slow sips of water. If we take out the Fuhrer, the Soviets are bound to go to war with the Nazis. The Soviets are bound to go with the war with the Nazis. It's the opening they've been waiting for. So you want to ally with the Reds? Uncle Red said. Not if we can help it, but a war between the Nazis and the Soviets would work in the Alliance's favor. It'll force the Germans to fight on both sides of the Atlantic, and that will give us a chance to take back some power. Uncle Red took a moment to digest the information, and Zara knew Garrison had struck a chord in him. What's the plan, then? And what does Zara have to do with it? Garrison and Aline exchanged glances before Garrison continued. We'll infiltrate the gala tonight. Aline will disguise us as the Japanese ambassador Nakaruma and his personal entourage. He's over 80 and is recovering from prostate cancer. That means he turns down nearly all social functions. There's no guarantee that I'll turn down this one. True, but we'll take our chances. Nakaruma will be our best bet, since everyone else will most likely accept the invitation. How exactly will Aline disguise us? As long as we stand very close together, I can manipulate other people's appearances. 3 or 4 at most. That's why we can only take 4 people on this mission, said Garrison. Me, Aline, and 2 others. We'd hoped to bring 2 more of our anomaly fighters, but they're either dead, missing, or injured. He looked across the table at Zara. That's where Zara comes in. You want to bring my niece with you? Uncle Red said flatly. He pushed his bowl of stew away from him. To the White House. If they want me to go, I'll go, said Zara, her eyes drilling into her uncle's. Despite the fear coursing through her, she knew that Garrison was right. The Alliance had a chance to take out the Fuhrer himself, and she could actually help them do that. Actually, we want both of you to come, said Garrison. That made Uncle Red do a double take. Me? I know of your exploits before Mission Metzger. You know tactics and strategy. You know your way around a gun. There are plenty of other rebels who know the same thing that I do, Uncle Red said, flustered. Sure, but you're the only one who has a niece with dual powers, and I doubt you'd let her come along with us if you didn't tag along too. Uncle Red shook his head. Zara just manifested her new power. She needs more time to control it. I can control it, Zara said. Mostly, she thought. There was no way she could just sit this mission out. Finally, she could bring justice to her mother, to Miss Tally, to Molly. How could she say no to this? Zara looked her uncle in the eye. I'm going with them. Before he could say anything else, she added, I want you to come with me, too. We'll do it together. This has to be suicide. There was so much uncertainty in Uncle Red's voice, so Zara pressed harder. If we don't go to the White House, the Nazis will keep coming after us. We're fugitives already. We can't go home. She swallowed as she thought about Greenfield and their farms. We have to finish what Mom started. She died for what she believed in. If this happens to you too, then come with me. I have to do this. For Mom. Uncle Red stared blankly at the table and said nothing for an aching long minute. His gaze traveled from Aline to Garrison. Okay, this is going to be a long chapter. Just heads up now. So, get comfortable. If I can't stop you, then I don't have a choice. He nodded at Garrison. Count me in. Really? Zara breathed in. Count us both in. Garrison explained the rest of the mission while their stew turned cold in their bowls. Apparently, getting into the White House, tricky as that was, would be the easiest part of the plan. Uh-oh. Once they arrived at the White House and passed through the metal detectors, they would keep a low profile until the official ceremony started at 7, at which point Dieter's double would offer a speech. At 7:15, the Alliance rebels would strike from the Hoffer Street entrance, due west of the White House. Using Dominic's C4 explosives, the rebels would break through the electrified fence and storm the gala, drawing attention away from the real mission, the attack on the Führer. That's why we told everyone to head to New Berlin after the attack on Fort Goring, Garrison said. There will be soldiers stationed throughout the White House grounds, over 100 maybe, not to mention the Corps of 4. If the 4 of us want a fighting chance to reach the Führer, we need the Alliance to attack to distract some of those guards. Garrison went on to explain that once the C4 went off, Zara would use her lightning to destroy Dieter's double, which would be captured on camera by the incoming rebels. Uncle Red bristled at the suggestion, saying how he should take on that responsibility, but Garrison shook his head. Even if we could smuggle a gun into the White House for you, and we're working on that, there's too much of a chance that you'd miss the target, said Garrison. I don't think you've seen me shoot, Uncle Red countered. Look, I'm not doubting your abilities, but we have to maximize our chances of success. And Zara's power is our best option right now. I'll need you and Ali to protect Zara so she can take out the double. Uncle Red didn't seem pleased with this plan, but he didn't protest it further. What will you be doing then? He asked Garrison. I'll split off before the speeches start and head for the White House basement. During the building's renovations a few years ago, an elevator was added that leads from a linen closet in the residential wing to a safe room, in case New Berlin came under attack. My job will be to shut off the elevator by destroying its control box in the basement. That'll trap Dieter in his room, but the rest of you will find him. What about your shoulder? Said Uncle Red. That's going to slow you down. We've got no other choice. About a year ago, Farragut asked me to find out everything I could about the White House after the renovations. She thought we might have to tackle a mission like this one day. So I memorized the new schematics. I'm the only one who will know my way around down there. The rest of the plan was more straightforward. After Zara, Aline, and Uncle Red conquered the Corps of 4, which didn't sound the least bit straightforward to Zara, they would locate the Führer in Balder's residential wing, a key piece of intelligence passed down from one of Garrison's contacts. Then the three of them would coordinate the assassination of Dieter, the crowning moment of the mission. Before escaping through any window or door they could find, under Aline's disguises, they would flee to an Alliance safe house. By the time Garrison had finished laying out the plan, his voice had gone hoarse and his eyelids heavy with exhaustion. Zara's stomach was churning at everything he had told them. In about 15 hours, she would beat the White House, the Führer in her sights, and the success of the mission would depend on her lightning, on her wind. Aline could get them into the White House, and her uncle was a great shot if Garrison managed to smuggle a gun to the ceremony. But her dual abilities had to carry them through it. Fear jacketified through her. What if she failed? What if she couldn't protect Uncle Red? Hey, look at me, Uncle Red said to her. They were alone at the table now. Garrison had left to rebandage his wound while Aline went to greet a new batch of rebels who had arrived. It's going to be a long and tough night. The toughest we'll ever go through. I'm sure. I know, she said, wondering if he was going to talk her out of the mission. After all, it would be the least cautious thing that they had ever done. There will be gunfire and bombs. Every Nazi in that building is going to try to kill us. But you know what? He was only making her feel worse, Zara only shrugged. We've already survived that yesterday, so now we'll do it again. And I'll be with you every step of the way. We're going to do this together. Overwhelmed, tears clung to Zara's eyelids as he pulled her into a hug. I know you don't want me to go. No, I don't. And I think I'm a little insane for even agreeing to this. But this could be our chance to take down the Nazis. And even I don't think we can pass that up. He released her but kept a hand on her shoulder. Now, we both better get some sleep. I don't want you passing out during the Führer's speech. She smiled as she wiped away her eyes. Uncle Red. Well, Uncle Red searched for a couple of cots for them to lie down on. Zara filled a clean bowl of stew and retraced her steps to the makeshift infirmary. Fatigue filled her from her head to toes, but she couldn't sleep until she checked on Bastian. When she reached the infirmary, she found him curled up on a cot in the corner, a blanket thrown over his shoulders, fast asleep. Not wanting to wake him, Zara left the bowl on the floor next to him. Zara? Zara glanced behind her, blinking in the dim light of the factory. Christy? She whispered. She hadn't expected to see Christy's face again, especially not here in New Berlin. When did you get here? My mom and I just arrived. A layer of dirt and dried blood had seeped into Christy's clothes, and her face had already taken a ghostly pallor. But otherwise she didn't look injured. Some of the rebels drove us out of the fort, but our truck broke down 10 miles outside of the city limits. We walked the rest of the way. There's food in the kitchen around the back. Zara wasn't sure what else to say. She was glad that Christy had survived the attack, but that didn't change the past. With a quick pat on Christy's shoulder, Zara was about to go look for her uncle, but Christy kept talking. I owe you an apology. The way I treated you at school was... Zara looked back at her, surprised. She hadn't expected this from Christy. Not now. Probably not ever. She had dreamed about this moment for so long, but now that it was here, she only wanted to sleep. I'm sorry, Christy finally said in a shaky voice. Zara wanted her to say more, but evidently that was the best Christy could do. It was far from enough, but Zara was too tired to argue. Get some sleep. I'm sure you and your mom are exhausted. Christy wrapped her arms around herself, looking like a girl half her age. What are we supposed to do now? We can't go back to Greenfield. Stay with the Alliance. Fight with us. I can tell you what to do, but I'm sure you'll figure it out. Her answer was cold. Perhaps it was the best Zara could do. And it would have to be enough. It'd have to be enough. Good luck. And she meant it. As the assassination ticked closer, the hours blurred together. Zara managed to sneak in a few hours of sleep before Garrison roused her to train in an empty section of the factory. With Uncle Red's help, she worked most of the day on harnessing her lightning, controlling its growth and steering its release until her uncle was satisfied. After an early dinner of onion soup and hard bread, Helene steered Zara to the woman's locker to give her their mission uniform. Their clothes and gear were laid out on a bench. A slim black shirt and cargo pants, combat boots, and a bulletproof vest. A handheld video camera to tape the assassination. Dominic found the gear for us, said Helene, who was already changed. Her clothes was identical to Zara, except she had a pistol holstered on her belt. Try it on. Zara's brow furrowed. I doubt we could get close to the White House dressed like this. A ghost of a smile trailed on Helene's lips. She narrowed her eyes, and in a second, her t-shirt and cargo pants transformed into a silky blue gown and glittering rhinestones dotting the straps. How about this? Think they'll let us in now? Zara had seen Helene transform once before, but witnessing it again made her head spin a little. You can really do that for all of us? If we stay close. You mean we have to touch one another? No, not touching. Just standing close together. About 3 feet apart at the very max. Her smile erased as quickly as it appeared. That's the key. We can't drift too far away from one another until the rebels invade the White House and we can blend in with them. Otherwise, our cover will get blown in seconds. Stay close to Helene, Zara repeated in her mind. It would be her mantra at the gala. She shuddered to think what would happen if she forgot it. How about the vest and your pistol? Said Zara. Doesn't the White House have metal detectors? This vest has ceramic plates, so we'll get through just fine. As for the pistol, it's for your uncle, and I've got it handled, Helene said. Now, quick, we have to move out. Zara got dressed in the gear, grateful to change out of her sweaty hospital clothes, and she followed Helene out of the locker room for one last briefing with Garrison. When they passed the infirmary, Bastian hurried towards them, calling out Zara's name. Helene frowned at his intrusion, but he glanced at Zara and said, 5 minutes. Find us in the kitchen. Are you leaving for the gala soon? Bastian asked Zara when he reached her. Bags hung under his eyes, dark and hollow, as if he had been living in a war zone. In a way, he had. I've been hoping to find you all day. He's been looking for me, Zara thought. Despite the weariness in her bones, she brightened a little at his words. Ever since they had arrived at the factory, she had been overwhelmed with training and adrenaline and chest-knotting fear that refused to go away. But hearing him say that made her heart a little less heavy. "We leave in an hour," she told him. "How are you holding up here?" "I've been busy. Much busier than Opa's old clinic," he admitted. He fought off a yawn. "But I'm fine, really. Dominic's cousin Sophia released me for a couple of hours so I could sleep." Zara figured he was putting on a brave face for her. This factory was a far stretch from what Zara was used to. A comfortable home, his very own car, hired help to take care of every last worry. But in the last 24 hours, his life has transformed into something unrecognizable. And Zara could see it in the dazed look in his eyes, the slump of his shoulders. "I'm much more worried about you," Bastian went on. He stepped closer to her, and Zara could smell the antiseptic on his jacket. "The White House, this attack, will be fine," Zara said, even though her hands wouldn't stop shaking. She knew the chances were against her tonight. The odds of success must have been 1 in a million. But she wouldn't back out of it now. Not with the Fuhrer at her fingertips. Now it was her turn to put on a brave face for Bastian. "I'm a dual anomaly, remember?" Despite her attempt to lighten the mood, the worry didn't retreat from Bastian's face. "I could go with you." "With my training?" "No, you have to stay at the infirmary. They need you here." Zara knew Bastian couldn't go with them. Aline would never even consider it, but she warmed at the thought that he was willing to go with them anyway, especially after everything he had been through. "Is Garrison sure that the Nazis will go through with this gala? The raid on Fort Goring just happened." "They haven't cancelled it yet," Zara said. Garrison had worried about the same very thing, but the Fuhrer must have been more concerned about the Reds. If the gala canceled, Premier Volkov would take a sign as the Nazis had a real rebellion on their hands, and oh, it's the end of the sentence. Anyway, that the Nazis' hold on the territories was weakening, and we can't pass up this chance to kill the Fuhrer. Bastian's eyes drifted over Zara, sweeping from the top of her head to the combat boots on her feet. His face hovered above hers. For a split second she thought he was going to kiss her, but he cleared his throat instead. "You're far braver than I am, Zara St. James." Admiration glinted in his amber gaze. Zara dripped her chin down so he wouldn't see her reddening face. Had she wanted him to kiss her? The thumping of her heart answered that question for her, but it didn't matter now. She was about to leave for the White House, for the assassination. She refused to think about an almost kiss. She needed her head in the mission, and only the mission. "I better go," she said, about to turn away, but Bastian caught her by the shoulders. "Wait a second." Zara waited, even though she had to go. She felt Bastian's fingertips dig into her shoulder, ever so slightly. "Be careful tonight, please, Zara," he said. "I will. If anything happens to you..." Zara stared up at him. He'd never looked at her like this before, and he was memorizing the planes of her face. Did he really care so much? "I promise I'll be careful," she said. "I'll hold you to it." Then he pulled her into him, nestled in his arms. For a second, Zara was so startled that her arms hung limply at her sides. But then she pressed against him, giving into the flutters in her stomach. Closing her eyes, she breathed in deep, inhaling the scent of him that lingered underneath the antiseptic smell. He released her, his pale eyes a bright red. "I'll see you when I get back," she managed to get out. Then it was time for her to go. And that is the end of chapter 19. Sorry this was a long chapter. Didn't think no it was going to be that long. But, well, you all know what's going to happen next. So make sure to come back. So like, subscribe, and comment down below. And I'll see you guys next video.